Magister Dixit. Magister Dixit. Magister Dixit. Magister Dixit.
Welcome to Magister Dixit, a podcast that invites you on a journey into realms of expertise, imagination, and occultism. Delve deep into the minds of those that have dedicated their lives to mastering their crafts, and how having an esoteric or supernatural influence has shaped that path. In each episode, we will engage with magisters, true masters of their respected fields, as they share their unparalleled insights, unconventional knowledge, and their unique perspectives. Venture into the mystical as we converse with filmmakers, musicians, and renowned authors. Listen to their perspectives on their respected disciplines and how being a practitioner of occultism has influenced their craft. Remember, in the realm of knowledge, Magister Dixit, the master has spoken. Today, we're honored to have a special guest joining us, a figure whose writings and teachings have captivated and challenged audiences around the world. Our guest today is no other than EA Koetting, a modern occultist, author, and teacher known for his provocative exploration of Black Magick and the left-hand path. Over the years, EA has dedicated himself to unraveling the mysteries of the occult and sharing his insights with others on their journey of spiritual transformation. With a background spanning over a dozen years of intense study and practice, EA has authored numerous grimoires and magical manuals, becoming a leading voice in the practical spirituality movement. His work not only sparked fascination, but has also stirred controversy as he fearlessly navigates the darker realms of magic and self-transformation. Through his writings, interviews, and public appearances, EA Koetting has become a polarizing figure in the occult community, challenging conventional wisdom and inviting seekers to explore the depths of their own consciousness. Join us as we delve into the mind of this enigmatic figure, exploring his journey, teachings, and the profound insights that he has gleaned from his exploration of the occult. Let's welcome EA Koetting to the show. I'd like to welcome you to Magister Dixit. It's quite a pleasure to have you on the show. And in true Magister Dixit fashion, I'd like for you to start out by sharing with us your journey into the world of occultism and how you became interested in practicing Black Magick.
No, great. Thank you. Yeah, well, first off, it's great to be here and chat with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I was quite literally born into magic, but, being that my birth mother was heavily, at some point in her teenage years, she got heavily into witchcraft, but then she discarded that. But after meeting her as an adult, she told me that it runs in the bloodline, that as far back as we can trace, we've always been witches in our family. But this was a mystery to me because I was adopted out. She gave me up for adoption early on, and I didn't meet up with her again until I was 28 years old. Interestingly, 28 astrologically is Saturn's return, and so on that Saturn's return, the full birthday because that is known to be the moment that you've done away with all of your childhood and you're stepping into your adult self, your new self, and I just magically met my birth mother on that year, and I always had a fascination with the occult, with magic. I remember, being maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I got my Lego blocks and I set them out in front of me, held my hand out, and I was trying to levitate them. I just had this knowing in myself, if I could let go enough, and even then I knew it. It wasn't a matter of trying to force it to. I had to let go and just believe. And my sister caught me, my adopted sister, and ratted me out to mom. I got spanked for witchcraft, but that was really clear. That was actually my first confrontation with that word. Was, you're practicing witchcraft. Oh, thank you for telling me where I need to look now.
Putting a name
to it. Yeah, exactly. So I really, I like every kid does, I was trying to please the parents and trying to fit in and doing the church thing and whatnot. And I was always getting scolded for asking the the crazy questions, like one of them that really got me in trouble was, we're talking about in church the story of the Garden of Eden. And I said, well, it sounds like in order for God's plan to go forward, he needed Adam and Eve to sin. And in order for them to sin, he needed Satan to provide the sin. And so I wonder, is Satan going to be rewarded for his good work? He's done such a great job. And the church didn't like that. I was, maybe 8 years old. And yeah. So.
And when you talk about church, you were raised in the Mormon faith?
Yeah. I was adopted out to a big Mormon family. So here in Utah, it's pretty common to have upwards, five or more children. We had 6 before I came into the family, and so it was a big Mormon family, and not. You've got like the Christian, you got the, what do they call it? The Christmas and Easter Catholics. You don't have that so much with Mormons. That not only are you going to church every week, but you also have youth activities throughout the week. You've got, different sessions, prayer sessions and study sessions with your family. It is a full-on occupation to be part of this church.
Yeah, it's integrated into the lifestyle. It's not like something like I was raised Catholic and my parents never made me go to church, so it was like, if anything, I used it to get out of school, get out for Ash Wednesday and put cigarette ashes on my forehead and go party all after, morning and then come into school.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I suppose there are a lot of Mormons that could kind of skate around it, but for the most part, it is a church that requires a lot of real, true activity. And to the point that if you're not active, me as a young man in the church, if somebody missed church that they normally should be there, I would be sent to their house after church to go knock on the door and say, "Hey, are you okay? I'm just making sure you're not sick." So that way, next week you're going to think twice about sleeping in. And it's all done with love and brotherliness. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot that now through years of being in multiple different cults and organizations, I can look back and go, wow, they got their shit down. They know what they're doing. To be able to really rivet somebody into their system, it's not just Christmas and Easter is not enough, but multiple times. Yeah, I mean, even in advertisement, if somebody doesn't hear your name for a certain amount of time, they physically lose memory of who you are. And so similarly with any kind of cult type of thing, you've got to really rivet that into a daily practice. But yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the Catholic Church in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s was jam-packed, because everybody went, and if you didn't go, I think it was the same thing. They go, oh, they don't go to church or something like that, and they had the stigma of that. But now it's very laissez-faire, and the Catholic Church is losing people, in droves.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So, excuse me. So, just in the process of, I guess I heard the word witchcraft from my mom at that point and made an association with the things that I was being drawn to, and I was drawn to it not just with the Legos, but over and over and over again in my childhood, a fascination with magic and with another reality. And I actually had a fellow from church. It's funny; these are people that I call gurus in passing or mentors in passing. That it's somebody that, in my opinion, they get possessed by the spirit of the thing that you need to hear, and they say exactly that. And so I'm probably 8, 9 years old, and I have this old man come up to me in church, and he says, there's another world that's invisible that overlaps this world. Because I'm not talking about heaven. It's not anywhere else. There's a world that overlaps this world that's invisible. And there are ways that there are methods you can use to interact with that world. And then he just walked on his way. Says this to a little child. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you. And so these are, these were really starting to influence me. Now, about 12 years old, my stepbrother busts out an Ouija board, homemade one, made out of oak, and he had all the traditional rules memorized, and here's what we've got to do. And at that point, I think I was jumping off of the fence that I was on was pretty uncomfortable at that moment, because I was like, I don't know, I don't want to touch this thing. I could feel this whole world was calling to me, but here was like the gateway. I don't want to touch it. I'm not going to touch that thing. It's evil. And so I went and sat in the corner, and I got a notepad out and I said, I'll be the scribe. I'll write down what the board says. You guys do your thing, and I'll just write it down. So the board, they put, and it was probably about 4 people besides me. They put their fingers on the planchet, and it starts spinning a figure 8, an infinity symbol. Fast, really fast. And then then the planchet slid to the edge of the board and pointed at me. And they say, do you want him to touch the board? Yes. I said, no, I told you I'm not going to touch this thing. I told you I'd be all right being in the room, but no. And it continued. It wouldn't answer anybody. I played it. I put my fingers on the planchet, and it went from just the figure 8 to spelling out, just telling us for hours its entire life story, which I now understand to be completely made up. The spirits that contact you through the Ouija, they want your attention. They're actually feeding off of the attention you give them, and so they're going to keep you on the line for as long as they can. But while that's happening, and I'm 12 years old at this point, while we're playing that, I became aware that the spirit we were talking to was not in the board, but he was floating above us in the corner of the room, and got an impression of, even now I get chills just remembering it. That was my first real contact of like, there's a spirit here, there it is, and here's what it looks like. Now, my parents, adoptive parents, divorced. I moved with my dad up from Utah to Washington State. Met some friends. They brought out an Ouija board. I said, oh, last time I did this, it got real crazy. I don't know, guys. They talked me into it, put my hands on it. It starts the figure 8 again, and then starts spelling out the name of the spirit that had been contacting me. And again, I could feel its presence, and it was always floating, for some reason, always up in the top corner of the room. And that really, I think that connected it for me, that this isn't just something this is something that's following me. This is something he's traveled across the country with me to talk to me. And I think that's really where I started taking this all really seriously. It went from there to, I moved with my dad to Vegas, and that was a great opportunity. Vegas is a fun city. Really cool to like take a bus in Vegas as a kid and go downtown and just be up to whatever you want to be up to. But also the school libraries were a lot more liberal. So you have all kinds of fun, interesting information you can find in the school library. So I would go in there and over lunch breaks and just study the Encyclopedia of Witchcraft and Demonology and anything that I could get, and photocopy pages. Meanwhile, I'm a youth leader at the church, and I'm full just Mr. Mormon, but I've got this double side of me. So at 15, my dad and I have this huge falling out. He was massively abusive through my life. So was my mother, though. So it was a matter of lesser of two evils for the moment. So I moved back to Utah with my mother, and at that point, she through the divorce, she basically divorced not only my dad but also Mormonism and God, and it's all BS, and I don't need that in my life. And so I was free to do whatever I wanted. So that's when I started hitting witchcraft. Really, the big primer for me was a girl in school. I moved back to Utah, started the new school, see this girl that I knew from 5th grade when I lived here as a kid, and she has grown up at that point. And so I start, she's got a boyfriend, she's got no interest in me, just, hey, it's real good to see you again, but whatever. So I started looking up how to do a love spell. And that leads me down this pathway of, well, you can't just do a love spell. First, you got to initiate yourself and do a self-dedication and call upon the powers of the moon. And none of that's really necessary. But for me, it was the pathway that just pulled me down into actually being actively engaged in witchcraft. And then it's all been a wrap since then.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because a lot of my guests, depending on their age, and I would say for your age bracket, usually their first contact with anything occult is the Satanic Bible by Dr. LeVay. And I mean, if I had $1 for everybody who told me that, I don't know, I guess I could go to Starbucks or something, but The bottom line
Yeah.
is it just seems like the gateway. And from there, the next person who comes up is Aleister Crowley. You know, and how they try to get involved with Crowley. Then Spar comes in, and like most of the time, it's the usual suspects. And like I just said, and with you, I'm hearing like you went right to spell work, and I didn't hear you really mention any of those people. Where were you getting this spell work? What were you using? Was it Wiccan witchcraft or?
So yeah, it was mainly Wiccan witchcraft, and even here you can still see in little me, you can see this war going on where I was really battling the irresistible pull towards the darkness. I had no interest in calling upon angels. I wanted demons. I wanted to, I wanted to immerse myself in spiritual darkness, and that was pulling me. But I was, there was that, I think, programmed part, that also the needy child that wants to impress others, that was resisting that with all of my might. And so, yeah, I was going to get into witchcraft, but nothing too dark. That definitely was not going to call on Satan. That was going too far. and so, yeah, my first resources were the World Wide Web. This was when, this is in the mid 90s, early mid 90s, when the internet starts exploding and getting put into your school. And so, I got kicked out of the media center so many times for looking up witchcraft, and they'd pull me aside. We told you you can't look this stuff up. But yeah, most of it was some of the first just Wiccan websites and general fire, water, earth, and air type of stuff. The first books I got would have been Scott Cunningham and Raven Silverwolf, and just the Llewellyn tribe. I was able to really look into what Llewellyn authors were putting out, which actually led me to submitting my first couple books to Llewellyn, which they rejected pretty quickly.
Sure, but they're like kind of like one of the staples of kind of safe magic,
Yes, yeah, exactly, and that's exactly. It's funny. That's exactly why they rejected me, and the rejection letter was that your practices appear to be dangerous. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. But the book that really broke me through into the dark side was the Necronomicon. I just had a guy. Again, a mentor in passing. I'm working at a fast food joint, and this guy comes in. They said, "Oh, he's from the Salt Lake. He's the Salt Lake branch or whatever, and he's going to come in and work for the weekend." So he comes in, and he's long black hair, all gothic, and he says, "Hey, have you heard of the Necronomicon?" So what? Well, I mean, I've heard the name floating out there, and he goes, "Well." And he describes it to me. He goes, "They got one at the bookstore in the mall across the street. You need to go pick one up." And so it's funny because it's about the same size as the Satanic Bible, the Avon paperback. And they would put them pretty much right together on the bookshelf.
Yep.
And I was a shoplifter at that point. Like, I'll just be upfront with it. I shoplifted a whole lot in my teenage years, and those books were just the right size to put into my back pockets. So I picked up a Necronomicon, and I'm like, well, since I'm doing this anyways, I might as well grab the Satanic Bible anyways. It sat on my shelf for probably a good 6 months to a year, and finally I picked it up and read it, and that was because my heart got broken by some other girl, and I wanted to curse her, and so I pulled open the book. I bet you this has got what I want, and started digging through that. So it was a combination of those two. Once I started reading the Satanic Bible and getting into it, I used the school library again to hit up the outer representative of the Church of Satan at the time, Hervad, and just had my list of questions for a Satanist. What about this paragraph here, and what about this and this practice here? And he actually took the time to give me a really lengthy, detailed reply. in that reply, he said, I think what you might be looking for is more along the lines of traditional Satanism and the Order of Nine Angles. Now, at that point, I'm 17 years old, and started looking into the Order of Nine Angles and sinister Satanism and that sort of thing. Again, just looking at online references and whatnot, and that kind of started the pull really towards looking into the deep, dark mysteries out there.
And as all that developed, what inspired you to create your first grimoire?
So my first grimoire, well, let me see.
What was the catalyst for I'm going to write a grimoire?
Well, there were a couple things. For one, my first grimoire was Kingdoms of Flame. And it was part of an initiatic process, part of an initiation. To back up a little bit, at some point, specifically when I was 19 years old, I started working with Lucifer really heavily. And that's what broke open my ability to perceive and to interact with the invisible worlds. And as part of that, I started meeting all kinds of spirits, and that my study at that point shifted really heavily from learning from books to learning from spirits directly. And
if I could just interject, how did you stumble upon this, or what was the connectivity for you that allowed you communication with these deities or these?
Yeah. So. Yeah, one of the big ones was I think it was the immersion that I was doing. So in working with Lucifer, I was renting out a bedroom in a dorm basically, and I took a Sharpie marker and entered into a trance and started just drawing symbols. Some of them pentagrams and crosses, some recognizable, but a lot of them just free flow, automatic drawing type of symbols. And this is kind of something I would just come home from work. I'd work a full day. I was working at a machine shop building crates, so I'd go do manual labor all day, come home, and just keep working on turning my physical environment into what I was seeing in my mind. And that I don't know why that was such a important part of it, but it was that unlocked something, going to that same space. And then I would spend sometimes hours a day gazing into a black mirror, trying to see something. And I was approaching this just with a fury and a desperation would be a better word. I was approaching this with a desperation. If I couldn't unlock this, it was like my life was meaningless. Not everything meant nothing if I couldn't figure this out. And so it was my full-time obsession. And that's a big part of it. What happened was the big transition, the big shift was Lucifer being constant at that point, invoking him constantly to the point that he's never leaving, and he was always with me. And the first part of that was for me to recognize, the presence that I'm feeling, that's him. This voice that just keeps popping off in my mind, that's not my voice. Well, that's also him giving me instruction. This isn't just me imagining things. And I think that was the big shift that he really started making. Like, look at the world around you, but look at it through what you can't see, and lean into believing that. I'm hating this thing that I'm in the middle of really struggling with right now, which is faith, that there is this thing of faith that does come into play here that I really wish it didn't, because I hate that word and I hate everything that's associated with it. But there is that matter of just leaning into the faith of it and going, okay, I'm going to suspend my criticism and my critical mind that says this is just all BS, and I'm going to actually pretend like it's real. And that's what actually unlocked everything for me. But it was a combination, I guess, of my persistence and full immersion and the persistence of Lucifer. And to clarify this, I'm not one of those magicians that thinks that these spirits are in your head or that they're just part of you. I do believe that these are entities that are here trying to work with us.
Absolutely. And it seemed like you just have to get into the right wavelength, you know, prepare yourself to, you know, and imagination is important. You know, I know for me in the beginning, when you're doing something as simple as, you know, the LBRP in the beginning and trying to visualize the, you know, these pentagrams and draw and, you know, and physically, like, you know, drawing them and then taking that guiding line to the next point, you know, and or seeing that brighter than brightness above you, you know, and trying to feel greater than larger than the earth and stuff like that. You have to use your imagination, otherwise nothing's going to happen. You know, it's like you know, you got to open your mind. You have to open your mind for these ideals to kind of and thoughts to kind of take root. So I totally understand what you mean. You know,
well, and it does it begins in your imagination. When I say it, I don't know if this means the magic. When you're drawing the lines of the pentagram, I don't know if your imagination begins to stimulate those to actually become real, or if they're real when you're tracing them, and what your imagination is doing is just allowing you to go for the ride. I'm not sure which chicken and egg that is, but the reality is really amazing, because I started this whole path of actually walking this when I was 15 years old. I'm now 43, 44 years old. In this span of time, I'm blown away that it all proves itself out. And that when I say that, it started out with imagining the lines of the pentagrams as I'm drawing them. But now, even as I'm just idly doing this, I can feel the drag of the ether on my fingers. I can feel you can start to see it. It's all real, but it's so subtle that it's easy to dismiss. And this is a thing that for myself, I call it the voice of magic. You have the opportunity to lean into it, go, oh, I just dragged my finger and I could feel all of the energy just, you can ignore that. And if you ignore that, you're shutting your perception, you're closing that doorway. And every time that you actually consciously look towards it and even say it out loud, I see you, I saw what happened there. Thank you for giving me this sign. That reaffirms it and opens that crack even wider.
Yeah, I think maybe even opening the imagination part of our brains allows for those pathways to kind of reach us, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, to the degree that the pineal gland, which is associated with the third eye, is generally encrusted over for most people, and it is through visualization and through mantra vibration that actually those encrustations can break off. And so through visualizing things is other than to us magicians, it's an untapped power. To be able to achieve anything that you want, literally, it's not like all you have to do is visualize it, but that's where you need to start. I'm sitting in a house right now that began in my dreams. Literally, I had a dream of looking out the window. I had just bought the property. It was a few years till I actually started construction, but I had a dream of this house, and then I started thinking about it, visualizing what I wanted to look like, got a contractor in on it. So even like a mundane action needs, if you're going to create anything, you need to be able to visualize it first.
Absolutely. That's how we manifest it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether it's technology, great art, music, mm-hmm. I mean, it all falls into that same category. You know, it's what inspires greatness.
Well, and then also, as you say that actually injects the fact that you triggered my Pisces artistic soul, but by bringing up art, is that you also have to allow for the mystery. It's not all going to be exactly as you imagine, and if you demand that it is, you're not going to get anything. You do have to be open to I didn't expect it to be this way.
Absolutely. Now, how do you say this? Epissimus?
Ipsissimus.
Ipsissimus. That seems to be a culmination of your work and teachings. And what motivated you to write that? And what did you hope readers would gain from reading it?
Well, to be honest, I don't think that much about what I'm creating. I don't plan it out. I will begin with that, like a vision. And for me, the first vision for Ipsissimus was a vision of Icarus, of just a man trying to reach the sun, and also the fact that his fall was part of it. The fall was part of his transmutation. And so the vision of Icarus really was the first thing that hit me. So I just sat down on my computer, typed that out. For a lot of things, I've got a lot of unfinished books that sometimes I'll turn into newsletters or I'll put into an anthology somewhere. And I was pretty sure this was going to be one of those. It was just kind of a love letter to my own spirit and my own ascent. And then it turned into, I don't know that I would say that it's like a collection or anything of my previous, of all of my teachings, but maybe it kind of is. I think I was trying, if I was trying to get anything out of it, I was trying to hit more of a mystical spirituality for the sake of spirituality, rather than spirituality for the sake of gain. I think trying to bridge that gap.
Now, do you write every day?
No, when I'm being a good writer, I do. When I'm being a good writer, I do. But no,
are you a pen and paper guy, or are you strictly good on the PC?
No, so I was a pen and paper guy, but it actually started physically causing issues on my fingers because I was writing so much. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you know the indentation you start to get on your finger, and then this finger started to get twisted, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go full on to typing, and so that. Oh man, it's funny because this is a conversation that writers in the future will not be able to have of writing with pen and paper. That's going away fast. But
you'll probably just think it, in another 10 years, you'll probably, with like an Elon Musk Neuralink, you'll probably just kind of think it, and it'll.
Yeah. But there's a different way that you process your thoughts when you've got the pen and paper in your hand. And yeah, so no, I will sit at the computer, but when I'm in writing mode, and right now I'm not in good writing mode. I'm in between projects, but I'm actually in editing modes because I'm working through somebody else's manuscript. But I'll write 1,000 words a day when I'm like on task, and I'll do that and be able to wrap up a book pretty quickly with 1,000 words a day.
Now, what was it like to work with Michael Ford? You guys worked together on, what was it, Abaddon, The Angels of the Abyss?
Yeah, and he's published a few of his own standalone books with us, and so I've written a foreword for one of those, and he's been. As far as how he is to work with, he is an absolute pleasure. He's one of the most just pleasant, soft-spoken guys to talk to. Also, one of the
very accomplished author for sure.
Accomplished, and then he has, in my view, he has a very intimidating intellect. He's I've had a couple of the interviews with him, and He's great, perfectly personable, great to talk to, but it's really clear this man spends a lot of time in books and in libraries. And I actually asked him something about that while I was interviewing him. I said, "You spend a lot of time in libraries." He says, "I actually have access to libraries most people don't, and I like to spend time in those." And, that's really, really cool. That's awesome. He so. I started publishing my stuff around 2003, 2004, and he had already had he was already several books in at that point. And I wanted to, he was the person I was trying to catch up to. I want to be like Michael Ford. I want to be on his level. And so, I read everything he wrote. I really studied his writing style and his way of presenting information. I don't think, and I think it shows through my writing style, that I didn't really try to mimic him, but I tried to understand why it is he made the success he's made and how I can do something similar. And I do think it's worked. But
we all have influences. Yeah, for sure.
The fun thing, I wrote this in my intro to his book Apotheosis, is he was like the big brother I was always trying to catch up to. I'd write a book and I'd look up and he's written two. I'm like, gosh, and flash forward, several years later, a decade later, and we're working together, and he's putting out books through my company, and we're writing books together, and it's awesome. It is a dream come true for sure to see Michael W. Ford, Asenath Mason, Edgar Cavall. These are heroes of mine. They're growing up in the occult, being young 17, 18-year-old occultist, reading their stuff just really tuned me into Black Magick too.
Sure. And now they all have published books through your company?
Yeah,
That's
they
awesome.
have.
And what's the name of the company itself?
Become a Living God.
That's the name of the company, as well as that was also what is it on Amazon? It's the complete works of yours, and also what role did Timothy Donahue have in that?
So Timothy actually hit me up around 2011 is when he contacted me. The funny story about this is prior to him contacting me, or maybe right at the same time, I had just finished my book, The Book of Azazel, and that was my final book. And I was very decided. I won't be writing anymore unless something comes along that completely changes my life. And the reason for that is the reach that I had. I felt like I had reached everybody that I could reach through writing books and publishing them on the left-hand path, and through what I had available. It's like there's not much more I can do. I can keep churning out just stuff to be able to publish books, but I'm not interested in that. I can't push the envelope, and I can't do more. I can just keep doing the same, and I'm not interested in that. So I was getting myself prepped for just putting down this, really returning to a private occult practice, going back to cabinetry. I had a really, really awesome career in cabinetry that I loved. And right about then, as I was getting ready to shut down my Facebook and everything, Timothy Donahue hits me up and he says, "Hey, would you be interested in doing some?" Well, first I did an interview with a couple of people he's associated with. So he was kind of watching me from the shadows, and then hit me up and said, "Would you be interested in doing some videos, a bit of video tutorials on magic?" I thought, well, that's absurd. Nobody does anything like that. And he says, "Yeah, nobody does yet, but you've got the thing that we want to bring to the world." And so I spent hours and hours and hours on the phone with this guy, day after day after day, as he interrogated what my system is, what it leads to, what I'm trying to accomplish. And in one of our sessions, I really broke down what I'm trying to get at is the acquisition of godlike powers. That it's not enough to just make little things happen, but I want godlike powers. And the ultimate of those would be omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience. And that I believe that these can be accessed through evocation, divination, and soul travel. As soon as I laid that out, he says, stop right there. He goes, the name of this is going to be Become a Living God. And I went, whoa, that's too much. Just over the top. That's a bit edgy. And he says, no, that's that. He goes, doesn't that summarize exactly what you're trying to achieve? I'm like, oh yeah, it does. He goes, well, why not just be honest about it? And that was actually one of the big principles in putting this project together with Timothy, is like, let's just be honest about what I'm experiencing, what I'm going through, what led me to this, what failures I've had, what didn't work. Just be honest with the world about it. And that's worked to my advantage and against me in different occasions. But yeah, so Timothy, his role is to take really all of the content, the videos I film, the newsletters and books I write. He takes all of that, puts them online, gets them put on the website. He manages the website. He does all of our editing and proofreading on the books, and just does kind of all the background office stuff to keep the business going, while I get to do all the creative stuff.
So it sounds like it's a really good partnership as far as
it really is. It really is
symbiotic.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Now, how have your books been received by the public? Do they sell well? I mean, do they sell well? Is it internationally, or is it just in North America?
No, really, really well internationally.
Okay.
All right, so a lot of my success, although like I said, I did study, and I wanted to be a writer since I was a kid, and this is an art and a craft that I've honed, but nevertheless never expected it to take off like this. And so with that, I write my first grimoire, Kingdoms of Flame, and put that out for, I think we did an initial run of 300 copies with Exacxar Publications, and they were sold out pretty much instantly. And that really blew my mind. And so right away she's going, let's do another one, another print run of 500. And she goes, that pretty much won't ever sell out. We'll just keep that in our catalog forever. That sold out pretty much right away. And that has been a pattern with, I'm not going to say everything I write sells perfectly. Some do, less well than others, whatever. But all in all, I'm always surprised with how many people are interested in this, and also how many people are freshly awakening. That's one of the big things that we're seeing that I think explains the success that I'm seeing, and the fact that there are so many people awakening at all kinds of different ages. The amount of elderly folks that come to me with consultations, they're going, look, I just barely started my path. I'm running out of time because I only got 10 years to live, but let's do this. And I'm like, all right, cool. So yeah, it is
too
pretty
late.
Yeah, and so yeah, no, my books all sell really, really well. One of the things I've learned, a little background shop talk maybe, is that you can't really make a living on books. Books are at this point, a book is a really good business card. It gets you in the door. Here's who I am. I'm an expert. You can read the book and see that I'm an expert, and then you can really build a lot of other things that you can offer beyond the book that are more valuable even. This is really the cool thing that was unlocked with working with Timothy, because I thought this project of videos wasn't going to do anything. It's a silly idea. And that actually allowed me a lot of freedom to go full force, where I was like, everybody's telling me this is going to fail and this is a stupid idea. I'm telling myself this is a stupid idea. Let's just swan song it all the way, go hardcore. And if everybody hates it anyway. So it's all good. And that really allowed me to just unbuckle myself. But with that, a lot of the things that we've built into Become a Living God beyond publishing books are like consultations that I'll jump on twice a week, Thursdays and Fridays. I have blocked off that I get on calls with clients and just help them with whatever magical problems they have, relationship problems, whatever. I'm not a therapist at all. I let people know that when they get confused. No, I'm going to give you a magical solution. There are rituals, spells, there are demons, and match you up with everything, give you all the instructions. Also, doing rituals for people. One of the big things that I brought to that is not just doing the ritual for them, but filming it and giving them the footage and telling them how to do the ritual themselves. So here's how I just did this for you. You can benefit from this just because I did it for you, or you can take it to the next level by actually doing it yourself. And so that becomes another teaching tool. My favorite, though, is to get people out here from my boot camp, where I just bring them into my temple right here and do rituals with them for 3 full days. So
awesome. Very cool. And I don't think being an author is not unlike being a musician in these days. CD sales and all that stuff aren't nearly what they used to be or anything like that. And streaming is just shit as far as any type of source of revenue. I'm sure you've heard all the articles, even the bands who sell millions and millions of records, they get like a check for $147 and stuff like that, you know? So obviously, you know, the only opportunity bands really have to prosper is by playing, you know, performances, stuff like that, you know?
And hoping you're not getting screwed on having to pay the venue and all of this other stuff. So yeah, no, musicians.
Not to mention the cost of traveling these days is extraordinary, you know?
Mm-hmm. So do you have a tour bus?
No. We're not so much at the touring level anymore. We just play festivals, you know, and a lot of times they just fly us in. We're there for a day or two, and then we're right back home. You know? Back to work.
Actually, that's my preferred. I don't like. I'll go to a good metal concert if there's a good metal concert going on. I will go to that. But my preferred thing is to go pop my shoes off and dance barefoot in the park.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, with all of this popularity, comes a little bit of controversy that I would like to talk about. Mm-hmm. And it was unfortunate that in June 2020, had obviously somebody who had mental problems in the city of London murdered 2 sisters. And as the police tossed his apartment or, you know, searched through his online history, showed that maybe he had some of your writings or maybe some instructions or excerpts from your books, in which case you really got thrown into a world of controversy. Sure. Go right ahead.
Let me pause you and just make a couple of record corrections there.
Sure, please.
The police didn't find that. The reporter found that. And what they found was not that the killer had any of my materials, but that the killer had signed up. It was 2 or 3 years prior to the murder, had signed up for a free account on my forum. Anybody can sign up for it. He posted a couple nonsense things that weren't about murder or anything, weren't about Black Magick either, so they got deleted. He got banned, never returned. That was his only engagement with me. He never purchased a single thing I've had, never listened to a word I've spoken, never read a word I've written. Signed up for a free account on my forum. He also signed up for Christian accounts. He signed up for some Islamic accounts. Those didn't get mentioned at all. He signed up for accounts in a lot of different places because he was looking. Because here's my belief about it. He was looking for somebody to tell him not to do what he was looking to do. He was looking for somebody to guide him and give him the guidance that he needed that he wasn't getting. He was maybe looking for somebody to tell him he needed help. And so he was going around looking at all of these different places. And, I feel like if he actually would have engaged with my material, he would have seen the path that he was looking at was not the path to walk. Because that's not what I teach in anything that I teach. He actually, interestingly, he had made a patch to the demon Lucifuge as part of this murder. I had written a book on Lucifuge that if he had bought it And if he had listened to what I said, he would not have killed those women, because Lucifuge specifically gave a channeling to me that I don't know why he gave it to me, but he said, keep your sword sheathed. Do not harm the innocent. That's not my path. And I thought while I was writing that, well, why is Lucifuge giving? I don't know. He gave it to me, so I'm going to put it in the book. It's there in the book that if he would have read that book, it would have, first off, it would have showed him that that path wasn't the path for him. But secondly, what he did was not a demonic pact. It was fantasy. He was engaging in fantasy, and yeah. There was no real link. There was a false link that was made. Now, in the background, someone who's a very, very loyal supporter of mine works at the BBC and saw this story coming through the press and said, hey, you can't run this. This is not true. Now, her supervisor, whoever she reported this to, said, it's already been paid for. We're printing it. So that tells me, you know, that this wasn't an investigative journalism piece. This was a hit piece that somebody had paid for. Around 2014, I met a guy, David Griffin, that runs a sect of the Golden Dawn. And he was looking over my Facebook, and he says, "Oh, that's interesting. You've got paid trolls." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah." And he walked me through. He said, "See this person?" And he really dissected it for me. You've got people here that are being paid on the clock to sit at their computer and troll you. Now that's really interesting. Who would pay? This is a question I don't have an answer to. It actually really disturbs and discomforts me that there's somebody with that degree of money and power that has any concern about what I'm doing. Because to me, I'm just a guy in my temple in my garage doing my thing, but it's really scary.
Absolutely. You know, and a few observations. The first time I read the BBC thing, it's an obvious hit piece on you. And they're taking a disturbed youth who obviously had a lot of problems, and they tried to basically hang the murder on you. And to the point where they were like looking to see what they could do. You know, like, well, what could we do to this man who wrote these words that, you know, caused this thing to happen? And it's just like, it's just so pathetic in the way that they would try to. Only in the UK did they try to draw those kind of conclusions. I mean, I say that, but Canada's right behind them these days, and the US isn't too far behind that. But as a result of that, you got taken off Facebook, you got taken off YouTube. I think they called Amazon. Amazon was like, no comment. So I guess, you know.
But Amazon did end up, they did end up removing a few of my books, though.
Okay.
So yeah, so there's, you know, we're in the middle of a very frightening time. I'll be honest. You know, I talked to Dr. Michael Aquino of the Temple of Set. I got a chance to be part of the last interview that he did on Michael Deacon's radio show. And, you know, obviously we didn't know it was going to be his last interview, but I asked him, I said, you know, I grew up reading and studying your works and your interviews, but can you give me and a new generation of Satanists and black magicians, can you give us any advice on how, you know, just going forward and yeah, anything that you got to pass us? And he said, yeah, I do. Keep your heads down. It's about to get scary out there. And that, I didn't like that. I thought, well, geez, this guy's gotten old. He was the guy that fought the Satanic Panic. He's the guy that took this whole thing to court, and
they tried to ruin his life.
100%. And I thought, well, that's a strange thing to say. Why would you say that? And then pretty shortly after that, it was probably about 6 months after that, I get shut down. I have the hit piece come out on me, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. You know what's going on here? And we can see this continuing to bubble up. One thing I'll say is I don't I don't know that putting satanic statues in schools and public places, I don't think that that's a good move to the point that it seems like that's a sabotage move that's being conducted by somebody that's trying to make us all fight each other. And there's a lot of those things going on right now where it's like there's a lot of false flags happening to try to make black magicians, Satanists look bad.
And the glorification when they beheaded the statue, it's not like anybody's making an outcry. It's like they're all applauding it. So it's kind of meat for the beast in a way. You're just feeding the media. You're giving them exactly the fodder that they want to feed their audience.
Yeah. So what happened to me is, I think on two levels. One level, it is part of this growing satanic panic 2.0, which is interesting. So we do see this. You see satanic panic and anti-Semitism rise at the same time. And these are always during economic recession, that people are looking for someone to blame for their issues. And it's the devil and the Jews are the two that always get hit first.
Well, many of my guests have concurred with you that there is another satanic panic definitely right around the corner, for sure. And some of them, people like Don Webb and stuff who had seen everything that had gone down the first time. In fact, that's how he came in contact with Michael Aquino through watching on one of the talk shows like Geraldo or something like that, and he wanted to write a letter, and somebody he knew actually pulled him aside and let him know that, that she actually knew Dr. Aquino would deliver that letter. And that's what brought him all into that whole world, and it's just like, it's all of those like synergy moments that, doors open for people and, changes their lives.
Well, and with with that, before my YouTube and Facebook got shut down, the article had been published, and I was having a hard time psychologically dealing with it. That was a lot to really have. And really, the hard part was, for me, was reading the article and that the internal saboteur really wanting me to believe it, to go, yeah, look, you are a bad guy. You're doing bad things in the world. Look at what happens when you try to do your thing. You need to stop. You need to shut up. You need to go away. And so that was really that was a rough psychological moment. So I went on vacation. I went to the Bermuda Triangle with my fiance. Let's just get away from it all. And while I'm there, I land. I get to our hotel, and my phone starts ringing, and it's Michael Ford going, "Hey, I saw the article, and whoa, this is nuts." And he's trying to console me, but he's just kind of making me more panicked. And then I got people hitting me left and right. I finally turn off my phone. I sit on the bed, and I go, I can't do this anymore. Like the thing that I had been doing on YouTube and on Facebook and pushing my brand with everything, not only everything I had, more than what I had, to the point that I had nothing left for myself. I was dying inside, and you can even see it on my, for anybody who is following my YouTube, you can see the decline over a couple of years of you can just see the life sucked out of me. And I called Satan. Just felt his presence there with me. Said, you know what? I can't keep doing this. I can't keep fighting the whatever, all this stuff I've got to fight. I can't keep this battle up. It's going to destroy me. Whatever you got to take away, take it away. Whatever. And the answer that came to me, and it's not like I had a voice speaking to me, but just a knowing, that this is going to cost you. And I said, yeah, I don't care what the cost is. I'm making a deal with you right now. Get my life to a point that it's actually an enjoyable life. And whatever that costs, I've got to have a life that I want to live. And spend a few days on the vacation, decent vacation, get on, as I'm waiting for my plane, I start getting just downloads. You need to start stepping away from YouTube, start stepping away from Facebook. One of the big things with that is I have developed pretty extreme psychic abilities. What that means for me is if somebody's plotting against me, I can feel that. That creates an energy that I can actually start working with and working against. Somebody's thinking really intensely about me, I can also feel that. Eyeballs that are looking at me, I can feel. And so when I've got hundreds of thousands of people on YouTube that were looking at me at one point, that's a lot of eyeballs. There was a lot of stress there. There was a lot of, and then also the maintaining of an image. I've got to be this black magician. I've got to be this. I've got to be that. And so it was no longer the person that I was when I popped in front of the camera. Wasn't even me. It wasn't even an egregore of me. It was an egregore of what I thought everybody expected of me. And so by the time my plane landed back in the US, all of my social media was canceled. And so, like you say, there's a synergy to it where it's like, okay, that was awful, and it did cost me. It did cost me quite a bit of money. I was overflowing with money, so much money that I was buying every poison in the world to try to kill myself with it. And now I've got more money than I can spend, but it's a reasonable level, and I'm doing much better. But there, and also a big part of it was that I did find a home on Odyssey to do my videos. So I do a live chat every week and video blogs and all the stuff I was doing on YouTube on Odyssey now. But the big relief is that I can say whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. I've had conversations with the CEO of Odyssey quite a bit, and he's not a black magician, but he's in full support of what I do, and it's a home that I don't have to worry about. And there's not a lot of trolls there either. That's the trolling. The trolling that goes on YouTube is intense, especially the professional trolls. That gets really intense.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's lots of talk about, even just politically, there's countries, and our country included, that just have bot farms, where they just have people running this shit all day long, man. Granularly going in all those chat rooms and dropping, throwing a hand grenade in the hallway, and keep everybody fighting, and, just keep you focused on that. Social media can very much be a psychic vampire and suck the life out of you, and reading comments, especially, I think, once you become somewhat of somebody in the public, I think is debilitating. And I could see how that would burn somebody out, because it's just, there's a lot of negativity out there, and also everybody has a fucking opinion, and maybe you don't need to hear everybody's opinion, Well,
and one of the things I had to come to terms with is I thought that my voice had been taken away. Well, I can't speak. I can't tell the world. No, yeah, I can. It's something I've been doing all along. I can write a book about it. Like, sure, I can't make a little Facebook post. That's good, actually, because that's not the way that's not the way my mind works best. My mind works best with minimum of 60,000 words. And if I really have something I want the world to know, I've got to come up with 60,000 words at least to explain it to the world. And that really became. That allowed me, this whole experience allowed me to really reframe a lot of things. One is, I am engaged in a war, and that's a war I was trying to tap out of. I was fighting it in the wrong way. I was fighting it in their turf. I was standing in their dungeon trying to fight them. No. I've also seen it's a war of ideas that, for reasons that are unknown to me, my ideas are so dangerous that they don't want them to get to the public. Okay, that tells me I need to keep going. I need to keep writing. I need to keep doing what I'm doing.
There's a lot of that in the world right now, too. Like people who have something to say and they don't want it said. and they shut it off YouTube, or they take them off network news, or whatever it is. If you're not spouting what they want you to spout, and people are listening to you, that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, I kind of hit a point of committing myself to the life of being a pirate. Like, if they're not going to let me on the major networks, that's cool. I'm going to go find my own network. Oh, there was no others. I'll start my own network. Oh, that's not going to work. I'm going to start my own publishing company. You don't want to publish my stuff? I will print out and I will staple pieces of paper together, and I will sell them to you. I'll hand them out for free on the corner. Like, it is a dedication to like what I'm doing. And it's never been about money. It's cool that I make a lot of money at this, but and that really did reframe that for me, of going, okay, like, and it had become not necessarily about money, because money was overflowing. I didn't need more money, but about the acquisition of it. It wasn't about having the money; it was acquiring more. Yeah, if I could only get another 100,000 in the bank that I'm not going to use for anything useful, that'll be really cool. And then it's not cool. You get it, and then it's like the next goal and the next thing. So yeah.
Well, we're so money and goal oriented in this world that to be able to pull back on the reins on that is a bit of a virtue.
Yeah.
And in that, I would like to ask you, through all this experience that you've gone through, these ups and downs now, how would that come in? Like, can you talk about the role of mentorship and guidance in occult practice, and how you would convey those messages to students now as a teacher with all of this knowledge and experience that you've gone through?
I think the best thing that I can do as a teacher is not necessarily it is to sit with you and make fire with you. The closer I can get anything that I'm doing to that, where we're sitting. My ultimate is to have somebody I'm trying to teach here with me in person in my temple. That's the ultimate. And then everything I do on the internet and with books is trying to create a facsimile of that, to connect with that and get as close to that as we possibly can. Even to the point that the way that I write my books, of telling personal stories of success and failure, this is all to get that kind of, we're sitting at the same table together. And so I think that's the best. But really, for me, it's about practices. I've come to my own conclusions. I've got my own weird beliefs about the way and the why of things are. That's not what I'm interested in conveying to another person, because that's useless anyways. It might give somebody some inspiration, but for anything that's really going to be part of your soul, you need to discover that yourself. And I think that comes from practices.
Well, I also think in a way too, you can also be that mentor in the way that maybe Dr. Aquino said some words of wisdom to you that maybe you could also offer to up and coming left-hand path authors, or people who are drawing attention to maybe their practice or studies or whatever. Maybe give them a little guidance, having already gone through some trials and tribulations yourself.
For sure. Yeah. Let me see. So one thing is don't feed the trolls. If you get to the point that you're getting trolls, just celebrate that you've gotten to that point. Don't give them anything. You don't react to them. Don't start tailoring your message. And that's part of it also. Don't start tailoring your message for anybody. Like, what you're doing needs to be coming from your soul. If it's coming from your mind, if it's coming from your bank account, if it's coming from your expectation of things, from the clicks and the likes, that's not going to get it. You can you can play the algorithms. One of the superpowers I have that allows me to succeed where just about everybody else falls and fails is I just keep going. No matter what happens, I just keep going, and I'm just going to keep going. And that does require that what you're doing is coming from your soul. That no matter if you're getting paid for it, or if people are crapping all over you for it, or if you're being slandered on international media for it, you just got to keep doing you.
Absolutely. How do you see the future of occultism evolving, especially in this age of internet and social media?
I think that people are starting to wise up to social media. And I think that that's making people make better choices with how they engage in it. And, you know, we are seeing a mass exodus from YouTube and Facebook right now, for good reason. You know, people don't want to be part of that culture anymore. And you know, people have seen, even the people who have been most entrenched in the bitchiness that goes on Facebook. Most people have started maturing out of that and going, oh, wait a minute, what were we doing? Now we got a little crazy there. Let's step back. And so I actually have some hope for this. So my hope is that we're going through some social growth pains. We're seeing that in just about every realm of society, and the satanic panic is part of that. That this is a bubble that's going to burst. We're going to get back to sanity, and things are going to be better than ever. That's my hope. My fear is that that's not what's happening. My fear is that we're witnessing the full breakdown of our civilization. And that as part of that, this is just one of the signs of that, and that there's no coming back from this edge on the path that we're on, that somehow we need to be shaken all the way down in order to be rebuilt. I don't know exactly how that plays out. I certainly hope it's non-violently. I do certainly hope that it doesn't cause a whole, but even the word, you know, as I've reached out to Lucifuge, one of the terms he's given me of what's coming is cataclysmic enlightenment for all. And that's terrifying, actually.
Yeah, the enlightenment, the enlightenment being that everyone's fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
And we definitely live in some strange times right now, man, you know, and you know, especially here in America with the election coming up, plus, you know, all of the you know, the wars going on right now, you know, overseas and stuff. And so I think they've got the doomsday clock set to something like 90 seconds to midnight now. It's the first time they moved the clock in like 20 years, you know. It's like we're definitely living in dark times, you know.
We are. Well, and I had I was sitting on my couch. This was about 2018 or 19. I think 2019. Sitting on my couch watching some TV show, and not necessarily, you know, falling asleep, pretty wide awake. And I have my mouth starts speaking without me giving any command to, saying, prepare yourself for the first wave. There will be 7 waves. From wave 1 to 2, there's not going to be any noticeable difference. But from wave 1 to 7, you will become a new species. So that was interesting. Then we had COVID hit, and I thought maybe, well, that might be the first wave that I was being warned about then. But I set up an interview with George Noory over on Coast to Coast to talk to him about this. And in preparation for this, one of my friends and co-publishers, Bill Duvendak, hits me up and he says, check this calendar out. He's way into astrology and into time cycles. Every century, we see this exact same thing play out. A pandemic hits, followed by World War, followed by, you know, massive depression. The whole world goes into a disaster, and then it rebuilds itself. And so even you know, we can see these cycles on a long period, but even as short as a century, we can see the exact same thing playing out. So we can look at right now where we're at is in the 20s. Well, the 1920s weren't so bad, were they? It wasn't great, but the real disaster really started hitting in the 30s and 40s, and so really in the 30s. So I think next decade, I think it's probably just going to get worse and worse until then. I would hope not. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and look at almost every religion has a the cataclysmic ending as well, too. It's part of humanity. There's that cycle, it's like the, birth, and we create, and eventually we destroy. And then from the ashes, we build again.
Yeah, well, and to put my tinfoil hat all the way on, it's obvious something's happening and something's coming, and there's a lot of concern about something coming from space, whether that's a craft or an asteroid or solar flares. But there's also obviously changes that we're all witnessing in our own Earth, and natural disasters, and climate change and all of this. But then what's really interesting is it does seem like there are people that know about it, that are starting to build bunkers and starting to make plans to leave the planet, and that aren't telling us what's about to happen. And so this is a really interesting time.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos is like, $1 billion bunker in Hawaii.
Yeah, and there are a lot of them, that have set up in Hawaii. Hawaii is an interesting place as well. Lots of underground tunnels that supposedly go all the way down.
I'm sure. Now, let me ask you, how would the idea of the scent and the realization of one's own godhood help us to cope with all of this life that's around us right now, consuming us?
Yeah, wow. Well, one is that you do have access to supernatural powers. It's just available to you. The same things that have been written in the Bible about the prophets of old being able to do, same thing that was written in the Vedas about what the ancient gods did. These are powers that are available to all of us. You just, first off, you have to have the need for it. That is one interesting little key that was given to me. You can call fire down from the heavens if you actually need fire to come down from the heavens. Then yeah, you can make that happen. What you need, you can actually make that happen. But then there is also ancient technologies that have been passed on to us of magic and ritual that unlocks these supernatural powers. So that's the first thing. I'm doing really good in this society. This is a really broken, sick society, and I've been able to fix myself up real nice here. If this all crumbles, the exact same powers I used to do that, I'm going to use in the next society. And in the in-between apocalypse time, I'm going to reign as a king because I know how to use these powers. And so it does give you that where, like, no matter what happens, you're on your path. And this is to kind of jump backwards a little bit. This was actually another real significant shift that I made within myself with with being shut down. Was I had to consider, do I want to keep doing this? The cost is getting pretty high, and I could go back to cabinetry, and I did look into that, and I've got a good salary waiting for me if I ever want to jump back into cabinetry. And I weighed that out for myself, and I thought, okay, play out the day. Go to work in the morning, have a nice day at work. First cigarette break that comes around, though, I'm going to have my notepad out. I'm going to start writing a book because that's just who I am and what I do. And over lunch break, I'm going to start writing a book. I'm going to get home, I'm going to be writing a book. I'm not going to be hanging out on the lake with guys fishing. I'm going to be writing books. I'm going to be exploring rituals. I'm going to keep, no matter what I'm doing with my career, this is what I'm going to be doing. And so that really cemented that in for me, where to be honest, I had gotten lost in the reward of it and the fame of it and everything. And that really pulled me back to center of like, no, this is who I am. It's not a matter of like, this isn't even something I do. This is just who I am.
Right. Now, what upcoming projects or developments are in the works, and is it anything that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, the next release that we're going to have is a book on Kimbanda, and so this is um, Brazilian witchcraft would be a really simple way of saying it. It's a bit more religious than that. This is African religious and spiritual practices that were then brought mostly through the slave trade to Brazil. And each place that the slaves were taken from Africa to different parts of the world, you see a completely different form of magic develop there. It's a really beautiful syncretization they do with the local culture. That these and it's said that the Loa they want to interact with people, and so they will enter into they'll take an incarnation of a saint if they need to, or whatever they need to make that connection. So that's the next book. That's going to be. I'm really excited for that. I've tried to get information on Kimbanda, and the initiated information is just not available to a white guy from Utah. And so this guy that's writing this is his name's Daniel Ramos, and he's down in Brazil, and so he practices this. He's been practicing this since he was a child, and so he's bringing all of the secrets of Kimbanda, how to initiate yourself into it, how to build your altar, and do appropriate worship and all of that. So that's the next project. And then after that, sometime this summer, I'm going to be getting together with J.S. Garrett and L. the Alchemist to do a radionics video course. So behind me, I've got this altar set up here. That's my radionics altar. So radionics uses different frequency technologies to fine tune your magical will. And so by literally turning dials on the machine, you're able to cast spells simply by doing that. So we're going to have a whole spell book that's going to be instructions on how to make your own devices, how to use devices, what to look for if you're going to buy other devices. I'm specifically going to tell you how to build your own device like this, how to take a bunch of different random spare parts, put them together, and to build a crazy magical altar.
That's awesome. That sounds definitely very interesting. And to jump back a little bit, I did spend some time in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. And while I was there, the person who was taking care of our band at the time, make sure that, all our needs were met while we were down there. He knew I was into magic, and he took me to a couple of Macumba stores down there. And I still have some of the things that I brought back from there and stuff. And one in particular we went to was frequented by Jimmy Page. He has a penthouse right there in Rio, and he can often be seen going to that particular Macumba shop. And Macumba is definitely, in a more limited sense, Macumba is it's an umbrella for all of those traditions, I do believe, like Quimbanda and like other Black Magick that's taught down there.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. You mentioned Jimmy Page, and that just does make me think of all of the magicians who have sold their soul or musicians who have sold their soul for their talent or their fame. And yeah, he's one of those that was pretty out there with "I'm a witch" and this is me, and I'm like, sweet.
For buying up much of Aleister Crowley's belongings and his artwork, and to the Boleskine House, to working with Kenneth Anger and providing music for one of his movies, and or lending his artwork for the gallery showing The Man They Want to Hang. Much of he contributed or lent many of his private collection for that.
Wow. So have you sold your soul to the devil for your talent?
No, if I did, I wouldn't be doing podcasts from my humble abode here in Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's funny.
I put the offer out there. We just didn't get signed.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
It's just like, you guys just aren't good enough, like I already have Dark Funeral and Gorgoroth and these guys are burning churches and stuff, and what have you guys done for me lately?
That's awesome.
But Eric, it was really great having you on the show. I thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about everything. And what is the best way for everybody to kind of get into everything that is about you and becoming your own God?
Yeah, go to becomealivinggod.com. That's the first step. You can peruse the website. I've got all kinds of free articles, mass amounts of free stuff there. You can also sign up for my newsletter. So you'll see as soon as you open the website, there's an email box. Just throw your email in there. We don't sell that to anybody. We just keep that in-house so that way I can send you every week. I'll send you a new newsletter. Usually I'll give you some sort of magical tip or a spell that you can use yourself right that day. Also, if I've got any sales or anything like that, I'll send you a newsletter about that. So that's really the first place to start. You can find me on TikTok. So I do a weekly TikTok live. And so that's just EA Koetting on TikTok. And then over on Odyssey, you can also check me out on Odyssey.
And you said you're going to be doing some video demonstrations or classes on there as well?
Yeah, and on Odyssey, I do a video blog that I usually keep to about 10 minutes of some sort of instructional that I'll do every week. And then once a week, every Wednesday on Odyssey at 2 p.m. Eastern time, I do a live chat for a couple hours. You can come and jump in, chat with me live. It has become a bit of a class where I do have a full lesson prepared, and often I give homework, so be ready.
Awesome. Eric, it was great having you on the show. And I'd also like to mention that your books are easily accessible on Amazon too.
They are. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure just talking with you.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you back on season 2.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.